React on President Trump and Chancellor Merkel's meeting. Former ambassador to Bahrain, Adam Ereli. Good to see you, Ambassador. Thank you for being here. Oh, at least they're talking to each other, not at each other. That's a plus, right?
Correct.
And what about the refugee issue? Let's go to the key point of disagreement that they have. Do you think that there was any progress made in bringing them a little closer together?
Well, I think that I certainly hope so, because frankly, the refugee issue is a dagger pointed at the heart of Europe's political and economic stability, and it's something that affects America very greatly. I think what we're seeing actually is a perfect storm of Russia exploiting the refugee crisis to undermine allies and sow discord in Europe. A perfect example of that is what's been happening in Albania over the last year or so. Albania has become the leading producer of marijuana and one of the big avenues of drugs into Europe, and the nexus between Russia and the leadership in Albania has led to weeks of very violent street protests in that country.
Right. Look
for that unrest to continue throughout the Balkans and southern Europe, and that's one of the things that Germany is worried about, and it's one of the things the United States should pay attention to.
Yeah, well, and more to the point of the Syrian refugees in particular. I mean, there are again, the exact number is in dispute, but there's no question that there have been problems in places like Sweden and France and Belgium with refugees that they have brought in who have been involved in at least terrorist suspicion, if not terrorist acts. So, I mean, there are specific examples that can be pointed to, and some of those examples, in fact, are creating a political upheaval in Europe.
Absolutely, and I think you've seen it already in elections in England, in France next month, in the Netherlands last week. You're going to see it in elections in Germany, where Merkel is perhaps going to be voted out of office precisely because of the refugee issue. Nothing could make Russia happier than to sow these sorts of seeds of division and unrest and corruption in Europe, and they're using the refugee crisis to do that. It is a very deliberate policy that threatens the United States as well as Europe.
Ambassador, of course, you used to work for the State Department, and there are huge cuts pending in the Trump administration's budget plan. They may or may not pass. But one of those areas is the United Nations. A lot of Americans think, what do we get for all the money? We spend about $8 billion there, much more than any other country does as a percent of the total. And they come out with these reports that are so against either us or our allies. They came out with one this week that has been withdrawn, but at least U.S. money helped pay for that study that was chastising Israel. Our ambassador to the UN, Haley, I was going to say Haley Berry, Nikki Haley just spoke to that point. Let's play the soundbite and get your reaction.
The UN has been Israel bashing for decades, and what we are trying to do is make sure that they understand there's a new administration in town. We're not going to put up with it.
Is it within our rights as taxpayers to blame the UN when they do something like this?
Well, of course it is. I mean, the problem with the United Nations is that it is unaccountable. It seems to have a free hand to do whatever it wants, irrespective of who's footing the bill. And the United States accounts for 25% of the UN's budget. I think the administration is demanding accountability and using the power of the purse to carry that out.
I think you're right. Ambassador Adam Ereli, we thank you very much for coming in. Appreciate it.